All right.
Yes.
We're ready.
Okay. All right. Today is May 21st, 2024, meeting of the Curriculum Committee. Frank McCree is here, and Karen Conroy, Kelly Lendrum, Tim Creamer, and R.G. O'Leary is joining us remotely. First up on the agenda is computer and digital fluency standards.
We have some new computer and digital fluency standards that the state has put out that will be starting more. They've started a kind of slower rollout where they do the soft rollout, but we'll be moving into this more so next year. And of course, we'll continue to work with our TOSA, Shauna Wordley and Mary Farber Peck in the middle school and our department supervisors. But right now, I actually have a little picture there. If we advance a little bit, we've got one more, if you don't mind. We have two more, sorry. We have, I just want to show a little bit of our map. So you'll see that the state has done this in grade level bands. So this is a bit of our map. This is a K1 band, and then there's a 2-3 band, and there's a 4 through 6 band.
I know, I'm trying to zoom in.
So it was really interesting. We had at our grade level meetings, our elementary teachers start to go through and look at their band. So say K and first grade teachers would be going through that and looking at those standards and the examples that the state gives, which are not always using a computer to do this type of thinking. And I've asked them to plug in where they've already done some of this work, where we have this in our curriculum already. And it was amazing to see that so much of this is already being done. Yeah. And I think that was part of the purpose of it, but then to go a little bit farther beyond. So you might see, my eyes are pretty bad here. You might see it better than me.
Yeah, but also, just to clarify, this is mandated, right?
Yeah, these are standards from the state, yes.
So the state says we have to roll these out. They have to be fully implemented into our curriculum.
Next year. So there are no state tests on this, but the idea is that we'd be implementing these things.
Best practices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of these things, as Karen said, are already happening. They've been using SAMR, which is, I don't know the acronym off the top of my head. It is a thing.
I know.
I don't know off the top of my head. So our staff have been doing that already. So this kind of helps, just solidifies it and then helps them build.
Yeah. Some of that if you can see better than I can, they might have a stand that talks about understanding, processes, and we write a how-to story in first grade, and that would be them, a student determining steps that it would take to lead to that. So that's that computational, or I shouldn't say computational, that computer-like thinking. I can read
real quick. So identify a problem or task and discuss ways to break it into multiple smaller steps.
Perfect. Thank you.
The focus is on identifying a complex for the age group. Task or problem to break apart into smaller steps. The focus should be on understanding why this process is helpful. So the concept is computational thinking. The subconcept is abstraction and decomposition. The lesson or unit or standard is incorporated as graphing during number corner, spring K-1.
So they do it in both grade levels there. So
and then here's your example. When given directions to other students, it may be possible to create a quote unquote named subdirection that can be part of other directions. For example, going to the cafeteria may start with go to the library. So that's the example that they give.
Yeah, the state gives 2 or 3 examples.
And then another example would be students could imagine a new student joined the class and is not familiar with the class and the routines. Then the students could discuss the different steps needed to get ready to go to home from school that they would share with the new student.
So it's really that thinking, not that they're doing it with a computer.
And how do they split it up again? You said kindergarten.
So K1 is a band.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 through 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 12. And the tough thing about the 9, 12 is that some of these standards, students take all different classes, obviously. So you might have standards that are, that you could have music, analyzing music as something that would achieve that standard, and somebody else may achieve that standard in math. But how do you guarantee that everybody's hitting all those things? That's going to be a little bit trickier to have those conversations with the department chairs and our supervisors, as we move through. I was just making people aware of that.
Okay. Any other questions on digital literacy?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Do science standards?
So they've been coming for
Yeah.
many years now. But we are now at the point where we will be looking at a new regents for earth science, which is becoming earth and space science, and living
Okay.
environment, which is going to be called biology again.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Swinging right back
We
around.
are going back to biology. Okay.
From what I can tell, that's what it said. So, and I don't know if people already know that we've started that with the 5th grade and the 8th grade test, the intermediate and the elementary test this year, with those new science standards. But next year would be the first year of going towards these new ones. And Kelly, you're smiling because they have to kind of think about those tests, don't they? The state.
Just so that, and this isn't anything the district has done, the test, because kids get time, a large number of them took more than 4 hours on it.
Oh, the earth science.
No,
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 the
it's fifth grade.
science.
Oh,
The
that's
fifth grade.
right.
Okay, that's
That's
okay.
aligned with these new standards.
It
and
was
that-
very
it's
heavy
nothing to
with
do with this.
reading.
I don't at this time have a complaint about the standards or what they had to
Yeah.
teach from a
Right.
curriculum perspective, but the test was completely inappropriate.
Sounds like it.
So
Yes.
it was pretty brutal.
And this is people across the
Yes.
So
region.
there
It
is
was not
actually,
just us.
so there was a conversation that was recently had regarding that. The state's pulling data
Okay.
to show like, how long kids took or not. So I think this is something that people realize happened.
Yeah.
And, there was a voice of concern across the state of this. So I don't
I'd
think
be
this is,
surprised if it didn't get.
I would be surprised if you didn't see a shift next year.
Yes,
some of
I
this.
agree.
And what was the format of it? Was it just multiple
Computer
choice?
based. It was,
Computer based.
it was short,
Answer?
answer as well as multiple choice. And
Okay.
sometimes you might have more than one answer for your multiple choice.
Okay.
Check all that apply, that type of a
Okay.
thing.
And there were also.
Some graphs that you would.
Yes,
use.
but then there was a portion that they did in classrooms that were.
So actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something we're gonna see in the regions as well. Those are called the investigations.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
there-
been the shift that they've all been working on this whole
Yeah.
year is that
Yes.
whole changeover. now.
and one thing that I'd like to bring up is that we actually were able to start those investigations, try them out in the elementary, for example, and the middle school the year before. So they came out in 22, 23. We played with them a little, we tried them out. And then when we had to have them done in 23, in this year, 23, 24, we had already done them once. For the high school, we just got the investigations.
Okay.
So we just got it 2 weeks ago, middle of May or a week ago. So this brought up a whole conversation with our science department. And we're really thinking about the benefits of a slow adoption of these standards. And in the past, we have done that with new standards for US history and for global history. I'm trying to think of the test right now.
They
Global.
did it with math, they did it with English, they've done it with all of them.
Those aren't as many tweaks to that. But those social studies ones are big ones where we did do that. So in the conversations that the department was having, they're concerned because there's been a limited number of sample questions released from the state. And if we postpone this a year, we have more time, obviously, to build up with seeing regions next year in June, and then again in August, even before we start to do it. So that would give us a bit of an advantage. Don't forget, we have 2 brand new science teachers who will be coming on, one for biology and one for earth science. And the other earth science teacher really hasn't been here all that long either.
Yeah.
So the option is either give the test next year or push it off a year. And the teachers really want to push it off a year,
Yeah.
right?
And there are
They have-
many good
Yeah,
reasons
there's
to
reasons that
wait.
they're concerned
Yeah.
with pushing it off. The negative of pushing it off, though, is that
is that the last administration of the old test would be probably the only opportunity for our students if we waited an extra year to take it. So it'd be June of 2026. There'd be no August of the old test. So if somebody did not pass at that time, they would have to, really work into their biology class to be sure they pass that. Now, I will say, there's no doubt it's going to be a harder test.
So they
So,
can take the exam 2025,
yes.
take it into August of 2025, take it again in January of 2026. And then that's it then,
In
right?
June of 2026. No,
So-
you're talking about the
The regular.
regular tests.
Before the new one comes in. So they would still have two other opportunities.
They would
to take
still
the
have.
straight Regents exam.
That's right.
So there's a good chance that by that point, historically, we don't have kids.
Historically, we do not have that many students who don't,
But it
achieve a
is-
score that
but it
is-
it is something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, after the conversations Karen's had with the teachers and everyone through it, they're really feeling giving us another year, having a new
Yeah.
staff member come on, like, there's a lot of change happening. New
Yeah,
department
there's a lot
chair,
of change.
new
New
staff member
department
coming
chair as
on.
well.
They want to slow the adoption, which we support it. I mean,
Yeah,
they,
it
they're the
makes
ones
sense.
boots on the ground.
And quite honestly, it's going to be a harder test. So if a student's struggling with this earth science test, it's not going to make it
No, yeah.
the first time a teacher teaches it. It's going to be hard too,
Yeah,
So, that's where we are right now,
okay.
thinking of
Yeah.
postponing,
I
slowing
think-
that
I think-
adoption.
The consensus is right now is a postponement of it. Karen did reach out just to see what other schools are doing. We haven't gotten
We haven't.
responses yet, just to see how many others are postponing or not postponing. But
Because other districts are a little,
they're just as mayor, right?
Hold that.
and the next point slide on there, Frank will show some of the stuff we have been preparing for the past couple of years to move towards this. But of course, we would have a little bit more. We've got, pre-maps that people have been working on with the newer standards. We've had our work with Lisa Sococcio, our BOCES coach. She's done some work, not just on more familiarity with the standards and really digging into them, but also, naming the performance level descriptors, what a level 3 looks like, what do you need to do? I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to mention. Oh, and considerations for the summer work as well as next year.
Do you want me to click on this?
You can. I just wanted to kind of, if it'll
No, that's
show,
not-
it won't share. That's okay.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to share that little
Yeah, no, I know
pre-map.
what I just did.
So the investigations that Kelly brought up,
Oh my gosh, I
I hate
can you escape?
don't know what I just did.
It looks very big. There you go.
Hi, Archie. All right, I messed that up.
Yes.
We're back to you again. Sorry.
So Kelly, you brought up the investigations.
Yes.
And they'll be doing 3 investigations for both biology and for earth and space science. And that, instead of the lab portion that they've been doing, they're expected to do those investigations. So we would still be trying out some of those investigations
Okay.
through the year
Yeah,
before we totally turned over where it was appropriate. We'd be able to write questions even for some of the old
gotcha.
content,
Yeah.
because some of the content's changing. But more like that new application that the region's
Okay.
open-ended questions would be. Those investigations count towards the minutes of the lab time that you have
I
to
was just gonna
have.
say, I assume that's the same. They're still requiring a
Yeah.
set number. And
It's
is that
graded
number
locally,
changing?
1,200, I
Okay,
think, 1,200
okay.
minutes, still, graded locally, but they'll provide a rubric for us.
Okay,
And it will not be part of the Regents, but it's an important part of the course because they say about 15% of the work that you do, of the test, the Regents test that they take will have, how do they word it? Let me see if content related to the performance expectations
okay.
of those investigations.
Got it. Okay.
I don't know what I just did. I'm sorry. I completely lost everything.
Was Archie gone too?
No, she's here, but I don't know what happened to my computer. I apologize for that.
You can't go back?
I'm still here. I can't see the slides anymore. Otherwise,
Oh, there's really nothing that you can see
We
on the
can't
slide.
either,
Oh, here we
Archie.
go.
go. Yeah, it was way too big.
All right, we're
There you
good
go.
now.
You're
Okay,
good.
I can get you back now, Archie.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts on that before we move on?
I'm not crazy about the idea of delaying everything. You got
Change
new-
is always gonna be hard, right?
Yeah, you got new people coming in. This is a great time let's move on. The progress of these standards has been ridiculously slow, ridiculously. And mostly what I see they're doing is lowering standards. So I would like to see us move forward and embrace new standards as much as possible with new people doing the right thing for kids.
How do you know they're lowering the standards?
I'm looking at the graduation thing, not so much science, but the graduation
Okay.
standards and the way we're gonna, every school is gonna have their own little avenues
Mhm.
for how to graduate.
Yeah.
We're all gonna do it differently.
Gotcha.
That's gonna be a total mess. It's got all the markings of a disaster. But we'll see.
Right.
There is concerns. Well,
How I feel.
I will state, like, I've heard that, and this is a part of the conversation, the living conversation that people brought up and people have talked about, is that they want to make sure that the rigor is there across the board
Yeah.
for all school districts, because they want to make sure that, a school district A, school district B, school district C, who's all different, right? You might have different socioeconomic levels, different levels.
Mhm.
The rigor is all the same. So the
Yeah.
graduation rate should all mean the same thing.
Yeah.
And the concern is if each school district have its own pathway,
Mhm.
could they be lessening that or not? So that, I think, is
I'll
more of
even
the
go so far
conversation.
as say each kid's gonna have his
Yeah.
own pathway. And if I'm gonna see certain kids are gonna say, we're gonna find a way to get you through this. Now,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be ready for anything once you get out of here, but we're gonna get you through here. I'm worried about that. I really am. And I know that's very negative, not popular to say, but I do believe that is this lowering of the standards and finding these individualized pathways for graduation is going to be it's going to be bad policy for some kids.
Mm.
I really am worried about that.
I'll be interested to see how it rolls out and what expectations and standards they put in for us to guide the school district. Oh, you were gonna say something.
Well, I was just thinking about the test and postponing taking on a new test, just as we've seen this new fifth grade test, which has been
Exactly.
years coming. And it quite frankly is a disaster the kids did it, but it was like torturing children. It was completely inappropriate. And so let's give it time to have the new test out so that we don't have to be the guinea pigs. And if, the teacher, I
Well, we can
trust the
align our
teachers, I
standards.
trust their professional opinion.
I think when we see more, like when I know when we've done these in the past where schools have waited, and I know we've waited before,
Mhm.
you get to actually see what the exam looks like, what they're
Yeah.
expecting of us, because that sometimes is a shift
Yeah.
from what they say they're going to expect to what you
and it's
get.
really
Quite
hard
the
to
surprise once
understand.
you find
And
out.
I think that happened with Flax, right? When they first switched over with the
Yes,
language.
they-
I
yes,
remember
they
that
did.
being a huge change from the regents to what was given. It was like,
Yes, and even that particular exam is different than
Yeah.
what the capital region one that we use also.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I don't want to abuse children with these tests,
Of course.
but
Sure.
rigor invokes some sense of maybe there's things that I'm gonna have to work hard at. I don't know it. It doesn't come immediately. It hasn't all been predisposed. It hasn't all been pre-gamed. There's going to be some things that are gonna challenge my thinking.
Mhm.
That's a good thing.
I did not.
oh, all right.
I didn't have it. I'm sorry. Did you send it
sent
to
it
me?
to you,
I'm
yeah.
so
That's
sorry.
okay.
I
No,
must
it's
have
all right.
missed it today.
No, it's fine.
I knew you
This-
said I
this-
sent it.
This level
Yeah,
of
sorry.
certainty that is always sought prior to rolling anything out.
I know.
I
We
mean,
want to
there's-
do our best for
Well, I
everybody, right? We
understand,
want to
For
do,
everybody,
provide the best opportunity
Well,
to
and,
teach
and I
it
think the
well.
other thing is there's no
there's
right or wrong
supposed to be a
answer.
little challenge.
I
though.
agree.
There's supposed to be a little challenge.
I don't think we're saying that let's not have a challenge, but if it's something like Kelly's saying, where basically across the state, people are finding that fifth grade science exam was not appropriate age-wise, those test results you're gonna get are gonna be not useful for anything. And then when it's time for us, I feel, to sit in a meeting like this and look at those test numbers, they're not giving us the information that we're looking for. So I know it does seem like it's coming out really slow and oh geez, we're making everything easier. But that's not why we're slowly rolling this out.
Do you think
Those are
that,
two different
do
things.
you think that it might be good for kids that, I'm learning something by the fact that I've had to take this very hard test. And I didn't do that well on it, but I learned a lot.
If it doesn't
It does
align,
happen.
but if
If it
it doesn't align completely to the standards and what's being taught in the classroom, it's detrimental to kids.
Because then
So-
it's like, I
I
don't,
agree.
Yeah.
I worked so hard to do this thing and now you're telling me I don't have to do it that way at all. And now I have to do it this
Yeah.
way. I mean,
And
it's not.
And we've
Yeah.
just started to put that shift into practice.
But let's also remember, we've put a lot of focus and effort into curriculum, right? Over the past 3 years, our focus has been,
Mhm.
where's our standards? Are they prioritized? Where are we shifting to?
And
So,
we have shifted that teaching. We
Yeah.
haven't waited to shift the
yeah,
teaching.
so
Yeah.
Tim, I agree
It's
with what
the-
you're saying, and you are the other end of that spectrum. You are saying the things the other people on the other side of the
Yeah.
table say.
I get
You,
that.
you are there, so I understand
What
it.
always
Yeah.
frustrates me, it's like, we're acting like this is all new. And we've been doing public education for 200 years.
Not
And-
like this.
Well, I understand, but
Right.
this is, it's a it is a continuum that there shouldn't be these immense, oh my God, this is so different and such a surprise. And we can't do this for another 2 years.
Oh, it's the
I would
choice of,
say it's not a surprise. The standards aren't a surprise. We've
Yeah.
seen those for years.
Yeah.
It's the way they're going to implement or turn that into an assessment is going to be very different. I mean, we're saying we don't even have our reference table yet. I say to our department chair, does that, I mean, how different is it? He goes, it's going to be very different. You know, like if we don't know what
Yeah.
students are going to have to use as a reference table it's going to be very, very different. So, because
right.
I
You
pushed
guys are
back and I said,
professionals.
but I will say
But
this.
life is not as predictable as you would like.
But
it
let's
to be.
remember this. We don't have to make the final choice now. And
No.
when we get our new department chair, our other new science teacher, and our new principal
who has a science
who has a science background, you know, they might have a different conversation come up, and they might say later on, like revisit, and might come to Karen and I say, you know what? The second thought, we want to roll it out. Now we feel comfortable. That can happen. But I think at this point, we're leaning towards the slow roll. But I agree. World language trips. So I apologize.
My fault.
No,
Sorry.
my fault. We'll take this one together.
Aw.
Okay, there we go. I have a proposal from the world language teachers. I just shared it with you. Are you proud
How
of
did I
me?
not know about
And
this?
by the way, aren't you very proud of me? I keep saying world language. I'm
You're really
getting
improving.
there.
You-
I'm getting better.
It's you.
She really
Wherever
is.
it's coming from.
Every
I don't
time.
care.
Correct him every
I like
time.
it.
Every time I get corrected,
Keep
just
it
so
up.
you know. So I'm an old
He's got
dog
it,
can
though.
learn new tricks. That's,
And
you
I'm
know,
assuming you're a board member to go on this immersion trip?
well,
Like that's
let's-
discussion.
I think you'll want to go after you hear about this. So,
I know that I will, but yes, I'd like to.
well, I keep, my daughter is not going on to Spanish 3 next year. I'm like, are you sure? Because there might be a really good opportunity that you might be missing next year. I keep on raising my own hand. Sorry.
I was just gonna say Sergeant took.
No, it's me. Okay. I sent it. I cannot do technology today. I'm
Too
sorry.
much.
All right. So here's the trip. So here's what happened. Mrs. Martinez and Ms. Fold, or Senorita, right? They did that right. They put a proposal in along with Mr. Stumbacha and Mr. Dool, for the students. So get them to have an immersion trip into Spanish and have an understanding of it. They want to take the kids to Barcelona and Spain and different couple places. Yeah, oh yeah. So to provide students with an immersion cultural experience, to expose students to the rich history, art, cuisine, and traditions of Spain, fostering cultural experience and cross-cultural understanding to inspire students to continue their Spanish studies and renewed enthusiasm, and to cultivate lifelong learning. So here's what they proposed. Now, even before we begin this, the reason why I said to Karen, I go, do we do school trips out of international school trips? We've done the ones that aren't affiliated with the school, and I forget the
Yeah.
name of that. But you
Those are
you
the-
said
yeah,
years ago they did this,
Several
right?
years ago, they did an exchange,
Yeah,
like a week and a half,
Right.
2 weeks or
And
something.
there are school districts who take international trips,
Yeah.
like within their class and curriculum. There's a lot to consider. It does have to be board approved per our policy, but there is a lot to go through it.
Yeah.
Like a ton.
Yeah.
So their thought process is 1 to 3 days in Madrid. And, you know, they gave examples of things that they would do. 4 to 6 days in Barcelona, or day 4 through day 6, and then day 7 through 10 in Seville. I think we all can agree that having our kids go on an immersion trip and going to Spain is, especially when they're speaking Spain, is a great opportunity for students.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of questions though that I think we need to answer before we can say, hey, you can bring it to the board.
Mhm.
Is that I don't know if the board supports international trips. It's not something that I talked to the board about before here since I've been here. There are concerns with going international, you always have to be aware of. There's a lot of things that, Mr. Jewell has already asked. So these are the questions that he's asked already just to start the conversation. We don't have answers back yet. We're waiting on them, but what's the cost per student and how will they be paying for it? How many students are they planning on taking? How many chaperones? What's the cost for the chaperones? Is it a paid trip or not? Are you using company to organize a trip? And these are just things that he's done in the past.
Yeah.
Like he knew to be able to do this. Does that company have insurance? Is there trip insurance? How will you handle medications for students? What are the transportation arrangements to and from the airport while abroad? The permission forms, what are the leisure
Discipline.
contingency plans? I mean, Mr. Jewell has a pretty good
Yeah.
understanding of some of these questions that I think we still need to have a better understanding. I'm not opposed to the
What
kids
happened to
going.
the Forward Exchange program?
We have it. We have
We
foreign
still have
exchange
one?
students.
They have kids coming here?
Yep.
And what kids
So
go?
so the way this works in school districts, the school districts don't organize foreign
Is it
exchange.
World
There's
Exchange
companies.
now?
No, there's companies that do that
Yeah,
within
there's
the
all different
community.
companies.
We have a foreign exchange policy that guides us that we
I
did that.
mean, we
a few
used to
years
have
ago.
kids come from other
We do.
countries and they go to school here
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
go to
used
school
to-
here, the
for
first
like a while.
it depends on,
Depends on the program.
Yep.
Yes.
but we have it.
But we used to do, I think maybe you're remembering that exchange that I was talking
Yeah, the
about.
exchange she's talking about is a flip flop.
Yeah, that's what.
One
kids were-
year, the kids come here,
Yep.
next year we go there. We didn't have enough students. It was in French. They did that and they
I've
didn't
never
have
seen
enough
it.
kids. and-
We hosted a young lady at my home many moons ago,
Yeah.
and then my kids went to Spain.
Yeah,
She was from Spain. And she stayed here for what, a month?
Yeah.
Something like that. That was a great program.
Before my time here.
Mhm.
I'm not aware of. So, but this one is, do you have any things that you want considered about as we look into it? It is something that I'm definitely looking at saying that I'd like to bring to the board if it works out, because I guys like to go.
Have they looked into, unfortunately now there's so many different student travel companies.
yes.
Do you know if they've looked into any of them yet?
We
Cause
have,
I know some
I
of
have
them get
zero answer. for
glowing
now.
reviews. Okay. Okay. How would this really be any different than, say, the trips abroad now? Like,
Well, the
yeah.
trips that we do, those are outside organizations not affiliated with the school district.
Yes.
So they have their own organization,
Yeah.
their own insurance plans,
Yeah.
everything else. So it's not technically sponsored by the school. This one is all liability and concerning sponsors from the school district. So that's, that's the other,
Challenging.
that's the other component that,
Okay.
they're
And-
taking
And it
on.
just has budget implications.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
You don't think that?
depending on, again, I don't know when they're gonna go. I mean, the budget implications probably would be who's chaperoning, do we have to get
What's gonna
subs for
get paid?
those? Are they getting paid? Those are the budget, but the amount of budget implications, it's a substitute. I don't think it's over the top on,
Yeah.
unless we're paying for it for all the kids, then that changes, right? If we're gonna pay for every single child, that would definitely have budget implications.
But you're not proposing that.
No,
Yeah, because I know teachers, will choose to use a company, so that way it really
Yeah.
helps, so that way they're not trying
have you
to
seen this
plan
one
every
before?
single detail.
It's-
Like I said, I know EF is a really popular one, the other one I always see is, Explorica, and then there's a bunch, but EF has been
EF,
around
good.
forever.
In some districts, like they have to use an approved,
Yes,
um,
company.
I can't think of the one that one used to use. It's not on the approved list, so he used me, but they use EF now.
Yeah.
But they're mostly stateside trips, but they have done international as well.
Yeah.
They're expensive. But they also do the soup to nuts, the
Yeah,
transportation,
That's-
you know
this is
exactly
the
where you're
transfers from
going
the-
to be.
yeah.
the
Well, that's
transfers,
my concern, is
does
who's setting this up for
All
us.
these
Well, when you
dinners
use
are
these
included, all the,
Yeah.
It's safe because they
Right.
managed all that. They arranged for your guides. and
Yes.
You're not just willy-nilly doing it.
it's a lot less.
Yeah, so as soon as they get us the information, we'll have more. I'm pretty sure I'm probably gonna have to bring this to the board sooner than later,
yeah.
because they didn't plan it, right?
Do you know if the teachers have gotten any, just because I get sort of spam emails all the time from travel companies trying to see if I'm interested. So I
All,
wasn't sure if they. had
all I
already
know
gotten
is they
anything
got
yet.
this, they
Okay.
gave this to Doug,
Okay,
Couple weeks
and
ago.
then I'm wondering if there's a date on it. That's what no, there's no date. They gave this to Doug a couple weeks ago. He's asked for the questions back. We've not received anything back yet, so
okay,
that's all
Okay.
I know at this point. So
Okay.
I'm sure probably within the next week or two, Doug will have more
Okay.
answers.
yeah. Yes.
So definitely a really way to get kids to continue in Spanish.
For sure.
Not mine, not my child, because even though I said there might be a great opportunity, nope, doesn't matter. So,
Doesn't have an option, so. He's fine.
so, all right, next one. Are we good? Any questions on that? Great. Going back to. I think I'm getting this. Okay, here we
There
go.
you go.
Next one, class
Yeah,
sizes.
class sizes.
So, the reason why that I like to do this now is usually I like to do it a little bit beforehand, but they just redid the numbers. I want to make sure that we understand the budgetary expenses that are coming out and, what we're looking at for class sizes next year. So that way you're not seeing something like 27 students in grade, in a
Yeah.
classroom and you're like, well, I want another teacher now. I'm like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
and they're doing the classes in the elementary school. They're designing this now. So it's a good time to bring it out and kind of talk about it. So if you look, these are enrollment numbers as,
Currently.
currently that
Right
we
now.
currently know, right? Kindergarten could change.
Will
You know.
change, I'm sure.
It will, right? First, second, third grade, fourth grade, they'll change a little bit, but overall, we're looking at pretty low numbers across the board with the sections that we have. So, 17 to 19 students in the classroom, pretty low.
Nice.
Second grade
Mhm.
with 21. AIS needs and lower needs, that group doesn't have a lot of higher needs in comparison to the other
What I think
groups.
will be interesting to see, because you're right, they had to make the decision where they were
Yep.
making the shift, and that second grade, well, current
Will be
first grade
second.
group will be second graders, has a much smaller number of students
Needing intervention.
intervention.
Sports, yeah.
So when they get down to 4, to track that and to see if that
Yeah.
continues, because, they had kindergarten and first grade at really small numbers.
Yeah.
And the need was,
Right.
the choice had to be made, and there was no other grade that it could.
It was,
be
a
done.
it was the
It was
best fit.
Right.
And 19 to 21, 22 kids in those grade levels, just right in line with what like the research says is
It
appropriate.
would be nice to know what the pupil teacher ratio is,
It is, I'm telling you, it's 1 to 21.
saying 1 to
Yeah,
21,
there's 21
but then you have
students.
teacher assistants and teacher aides as well.
Well,
And
that depends on the
special
classroom,
education.
right?
That's what I'm getting at.
It depends on the classroom and it
So
depends on,
you could be able to tell us how many aides,
so
assistants
in
are assigned
kindergarten,
each grade.
well, now I don't have your consultant teacher models in here, right? So,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't use that because if we take away our special education components, I'm going to remove that, right? So any student who has a 1-to-1 aid or any kids with special ed, I'm not going to use those, right? Because those kids are getting those teachers put in the room. So I'm only going to say a straight classroom, and then any assistants that in our kindergarten should be having one teacher, one aide, and assistant
day.
part of the day, right? So you're looking at 1 to 16 or 2 to 16, depending on the day, right? The first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, that's one teacher in the room. The teacher assistants are in there for special education or consultant teacher model. And an IEP is for a child to make sure that you're giving the accommodations to meet the needs of the curriculum that's in the room.
Right.
Right, so,
They're not meant to be shared by the whole.
right,
Yeah.
they can be, and they, sometimes they are, but really, they're meant for those children
Other than
specifically. that have
kindergarten,
needs.
we don't have general
Right.
education TAs, and the aides that we have, those are supervising lunches.
Mm.
Yeah, so really, what you're looking
The
at
teaching assistant.
is 1 to 16, 1 to 21, 1 to 17, 1 to 19 in a row. Again, unless it's a consultant teacher model in special ed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
High school, I wasn't gonna share, and then Robin asked real quick, and I asked Doug if he had it. They don't have what I was looking for. So
Okay.
they have course requests, and it just basically says how many students are signing up for a course, but which they don't currently have right now is the estimated number of students per course, right?
Yeah.
So when I was a high school principal, I was able to kind of estimate it by the end of June, saying, I have 5 sections of social studies, grade 9, I have 120 kids,
Yeah.
therefore I'm gonna have about, 22 to 25 kids in the classroom, something like that. They don't currently have that. Our class sizes range anywhere between 12 to 24, right? And AP classes are 23 to 27, depending on how they run. But again, after they run all the schedules, they might not know our full class sizes until August, right? Because you're running
Sometimes
numbers.
Regents results may
Exactly.
also.
Yep. And then they're tweaking it and
Change
running
that.
the schedule and stuff. So
Yeah.
high school can change pretty
Plans will
drastically.
change.
K through 7 really isn't gonna change that much.
Yeah.
The numbers that you
Right.
see, they're gonna be roughly around in that number. A grade 8 does change because grade 8, you have algebra
Mhm.
and,
Earth
earth science that are built in.
Science.
So that's changing. Right now, there are how many students that are?
51 for algebra,
That's
2 full
8th grade.
classes.
So 8th grade, there's 51 students taking algebra, which is the Regents course. And then for science, it's
About 33 plus more invites have
Right.
gone out,
so
so.
33.
For next year's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I asked a
Yeah.
question today that is, why do we have a discrepancy between the students who are in advanced math in comparison to advanced science?
Mhm.
I think that's something we just want to be considerate about because as they move up, you're looking at those kids, you might be limiting some of the opportunities in the future because if they're in advanced math in 8th grade and not in advanced science in 8th grade, then they're taking earth science in grade 8 instead of biology,
Yeah.
right? And then by chemistry, if they were advanced, it'd be chemistry and algebra 2
Yeah.
in grade 10. And then physics or in in pre-cal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those go hand in hand. And right now, if we're not advancing those kids early, they don't have that same alignment.
Yeah.
And that makes me a little nervous that we might be hindering kids. Doug Duell said it today, great. He goes, it's like cutting at the modified level.
Yeah.
You know, like you're cutting them early, maybe not giving them that opportunity to grow as they get older. So I think that's something that they're gonna
Why
have to
could they
look at.
not take both?
That's the question I asked. They have
Is it
exams,
based on-
they have
yes,
entrance
exams and
exams,
teacher
right,
recommendations?
and
And
teacher
the rubric
recommendations,
that-
but it seems interesting that you have
Okay.
more in math and science when it's, you know, I'm wondering what the discrepancy
I'm
is.
just thinking, because I know like currently right now, I have way more eighth graders that are in Earth Science Center and algebra.
And it's flip-flop.
Yeah.
It's interesting
Yeah.
because actually one thing that I would say is that the math is really limited. The science is maybe a little less so, but
Yeah.
why, I still don't have an answer
Yeah.
to why we don't have more. But
Yeah.
the math, if you don't have that, then you definitely can't advance. The science isn't really advanced as much as early.
But I think it's, for me, is you see something where the numbers aren't really, it makes you question it. It's worth it for us to take a look and say, why is this
But there's
happening?
no structural reason why you couldn't take both.
There's not,
Okay,
there's not. You have, and right now,
not a
on-
scheduling
well,
problem.
we actually have a scheduling problem right now, because we
Yeah.
have 33 students that want to take it. Our class size cap is 30, right?
So now you have to have
Math.
two sections.
No, science.
Science,
So if
okay.
we have 33 students who want to take it, our class size is 30, we have to offer 2 different sections of that.
Yeah.
And so your options for that would be, you know, have 17, 15 kids in a classroom, or
And then the other
Combined,
classes for
right?
science
So your
8
grade-
are gonna
yeah.
be so much bigger.
or
than-
you do science 8, 9. So I did that before too, where my 8th graders and 9th graders then take it together. Just because then you have, it's resource issues, right? Then you push those kids together, so then they're learning from each other. You just don't separate 8th grade by themselves.
Mhm.
So that's an option too,
We've done
depending
that
on how
too.
many you have. Yeah. So
Yeah.
scheduling can get a little cloudy, but
Especially in a small school, you can be really limited, I
Yeah.
know.
As
So it's
many
something-
opportunities as we can give kids,
Yeah.
we want to.
so I think I'm asking them to kind of look at that to understand that better. So I don't think it's going to change for this year, but I
Yeah.
think in the following year, we might be
Okay.
looking at why that looks like that.
Okay.
So. But other than that,
They look good.
our class sizes are very low.
Yes, I do like those classes.
They're very low. And even 5th grade coming up next year, 20 to 21. Something to just know. Special education levels. Our 7th grade
All right.
going into next year has the highest cohort of special education students since the graduating class last year, correct?
I think so, because
Yeah.
there are 18.
18.
with
So 6th
IEPs.
graders now going into 7th. grade.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
So
and
that's
a
about
few
what, 20%?
504s as well.
Or 15%?
Um,
I think it's like
I'm
15.
trying to remember how many there are in there.
I think it's like 14 to 15.
I
It's
think
high.
you might be
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So it's a higher number. of
Usually
special
we're more
education
like
students going into
11%,
7th grade. Yeah.
12%.
Okay. So it's like around 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point. And the rediscerning learning pilot.
Hey, oh,
There
you
it
jumped
is.
my other
Oh, I'm
picture?
sorry. I only have one picture here.
What?
This is
Did
it.
you? You must have deleted my other picture? No, there it is.
Oh, so don't
Okay.
you
Oh,
see?
okay.
I-
All right,
I'll
all
start
right.
today, Karen.
So we had David Stubbs come in and do a full day workshop. We've announced our pilot participants.
Yep.
We have Jeannie Young, Jamie Gray, and Gabby Lau, 2 social studies teacher and English teacher. And we did invite a couple more people to our day-long workshop, which was great. Somebody who really we're looking for department leaders or department chairs to kind of be involved
One
as
science,
well.
one math.
So, we did this last
I
Thursday.
do wanna state
Yes. I'm
So I did speak to Jim.
Uh-huh.
And Jim stated, dependent on how much they order
The cost.
and the cost of it, we may be able to open it up to 1 or 2 more people. So those people who did get the training,
Okay.
who are actually very, very.
Very
interested,
excited and
Okay.
interested.
Instead of them being a part of the second cohort, we may be able to get some
Okay.
information. So Jim's got to look at the budget
So right
altogether.
now it's 3.
Right
Yeah, right
now
now
it's
it's 3 with a good possibility if I try
Man.
really hard.
Okay.
Like, I'm gonna say it's gonna be 4 because I'm
Okay.
gonna push Jim.
Well,
but-
I will say at the very end of our day, I turned to the 2 people who are not in the pilot and I
Mhm.
said, what are you thinking? And Jess Bradshaw said, I'm thinking, why didn't I do a proposal for that pilot? Because they were really excited. We had a great experience.
Mhm.
One of the one of the exercises we did, which I really liked, was we were drawing 3 circles, one circle and then another circle inside another circle. And on that first perimeter circle, we're writing, teachers were working together in groups and writing down the things that teachers would have control over in their classroom. Temperature, where the desks are, window open or close, different things. And then, boom, 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 we put in, and then the next one, you're putting in anything that the students have control over. And we would have to pause, really have to think. Well, the person I was working with said, well, they do get to choose their seat within this table that they sit at, or that, like, there was some choice, but it was obviously much more limited. So it had us starting to think, and then what would you like to see? And it was just really interesting to get the conversations going, because everybody was seeing how the thinking of how, that space and designing more student voice, or how they were using that space could really affect the learning environment. It was very neat.
And then one of the things David was saying is change is easy. You can do change, but being transformative and transforming your learning, that's hard. He goes, everybody's got a Volkswagen, right? You got a table, you got a square table. I'm just using his language because I thought it was fantastic. And he goes, but they all want the Porsche. So as soon as I give them the Porsche, they drive it just like they had a Volkswagen. They're not doing anything different with the Porsche. But if I get a Lamborghini, I'm definitely going to transform the way that I drive. I'm not going to drive it like a Volkswagen. So that's the idea of this, is that, I'm not going to give you the nicer table and then have you do exactly the same thing as we have been. That's not change. That's not transforming your learning. That's just giving you a nicer car to drive the same way you've already had it.
Does he have examples of the transformation?
Oh, he gave them across the board and how to do them and what to do with them.
We started talking about that, and he also shared, and I can share it with you, a white paper that he has that was just.
The first question I have is, to what end are we doing all this? Moving the furniture around.
It's not moving the furniture.
Yeah.
So
We
it's
barely
changing the learning style, pivoting where the teacher is in the room.
Yeah.
So right now, a teacher owns the majority of the classroom, right? So in the beginning of that classroom, when you walk in, that teacher owns their territory, is that front end of that room and probably where their desk is. And it's not where the student is. When you can pivot and change where your room is and where you stand in your room and your proximity to those students, you're changing the dynamic of that. And if you look at our Charlotte Danielson, the model that we utilize to evaluate teachers, questioning and techniques are really a major component of that, and student ownership in a room. The traditional model that we utilize does not do this, right? Your desk in a row, or your students here to here. So we're at a table. Our proximity to one another isn't engaging. We're not able to move.
Is there evidence of this doing some
Yes,
good
there's
things?
tons of evidence of student-based learning, student-centered learning, breaking down that model, and it's in other schools, right? So if you look at Denmark, Bali, you look at these other schools who are exceeding and excelling, they don't have the traditional model of the rows in front. They're changing that. So there's a lot of science-based research that actually says you need to start breaking down your walls, and transforming those learnings. And when you're starting to do that, kids have ownership of the room, ownership of their learning, and it changes the model and the way a teacher teaches. It turns to more project-based learning, more than that stand and deliver type of learning.
A lot more collaboration. But I think Tim is absolutely right. It's really not just about a desk, right? And he didn't spend time talking about each piece of furniture. And people were thinking, what are we going to do for a full day with furniture? It was talking about what Frank just, the engagement, the flexibility, the diversity, the way you use,
And it's also about the ability to be able to
Diversity.
diversity of the material, of the furniture.
Let me
for
give you an
flexibility.
example of something that I saw in another school district. And so I bought these amazing science tables, super best tables ever. I redid science room, and I had really engaging living environment teachers, and they wanted to do DNA testing and forensics, and so they did this whole DNA thing that linked to living environment regions. They did Pilo kits, DNA testing, to like high level rigor for 9th grade students. And I had these amazing tables that I bought, super heavy duty tables. One morning I walk in and all I hear is it's like screeching. And I walk into the science room and I see the teacher, I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm setting up a crime scene. And I'm watching him, he's setting up this crime scene. He's moving these unbelievably durable tables to go around And he's doing this, and then the kids come in the room and they sit up at these, this table. And then the next day I hear him again, he's moving them again. Like, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm making it so the students can learn again. So he's doing this every day. The kids have no ownership of the room, and he's trying to change it and putting the effort to making that room accessible to where the kids are, right? These kinds of things, move it 2 seconds, stack, deliver, change them all around. Look at our art room. We switch from these standard tables, like these standard things, to these tables that the kids can move around. It's changed the whole outcome of their instruction just by getting tables. Now imagine now we're actually getting, furniture that does a lot more than that for the students and the teacher, and giving the PD. It's going to, we're hoping to see this huge transition of instruction. And I think what the
Journey
teachers
is
got,
slow.
did
Yeah.
you do an evaluation or a
I
conversation?
did, but I didn't get any responses yet.
Okay, but what they said when we were there was, they did like a circle at the end and the closing.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I think I texted you some of
Yeah, you
those
did.
words that people said, transformative, thought provoking. What was the word? It was impatient.
Yeah.
I want to get this going now. That kind
Yeah,
of.
and one of the things too is also
Nobody
about,
said this is another fad.
no,
Not
these
the
teachers are
people
all
for
in.
this.
But
But
I mean, for a fad, it's been lasting a really long time, I can say.
he
It's-
said the
it's been a
exact same
while,
thing.
so it's not a
He
fad.
said it's not a trend. It's a.
I mean, and if you think of it as far as, where students have more ownership of the room. I mean, do you want your students coming in and I tell you, you're going to sit there, I'm going to stand in front of the room and you're going to listen to what I have to say and you're just going to memorize
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
That's not learning anything. We're not really teaching students to be able to think critically.
No.
The teacher's never really moving beyond that same exact instructional
Passive
model.
acceptance.
And we know for a fact that's not the best instructional model. So I mean, especially if we want to raise standards and have students be better critical thinkers, we need to be able to do things like this. Unfortunately, it costs money and it's a lot of work,
And it
but
is.
it really can be
time
worth
and-
it. When it's done correctly, I personally have seen a lot of results.
Yeah.
I know it does not sound like it might be.
So
However,
we actually have a field trip planned
Mhm.
for everybody. So we set up the classroom down for us to go look at.
Okay.
So you can actually see it and be a part of it. So if you're ready, we can go down and check it out whenever you want.
sure.
RG, do you want me to FaceTime you or are you good?
Is there more on the agenda?
This is it.
This is it.
Where are you going from?
We're going down to the classroom that houses all the furniture.
Oh, well, I've seen the videos and everything. I think I'm okay.
All right.
Archie, where are you?
I'm in Pittsburgh.
That doesn't look like Pittsburgh.
Well, I'm in my hotel room, and that's a fake building. So
It's beautiful, beautiful scene behind you.
my
Any
absence.
other questions, though?
What's that?
Do you have any questions, though?
No. Everything sounds good. The just to go backwards on the topic of the standards and slow rolling, I'm
Yeah.
perfectly happy to slow roll. I don't really want to see our kids be guinea pigs when the state seems to change all these things when they realize the mistakes they made in round one. So
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with the approach. But anyway, all right, sounds good. Thanks for a great meeting.
All right. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, RG.
Bye.